G'day YouTubers, Harry Houdini here, down under, and I'm back again with the StuG. Now, the astute of you, and those that actually watch my channel, they would have seen a review of this quite some months ago when I was homeless, when I was still looking for the cottage, this lovely place I live in now. Now, I really loved this kit, and I saw a beautiful version on one of the Facebook groups when somebody had knocked it out. It looked like a big 1/35th scale, but it was just this tiny 1/72nd scale Dragon StuG. But it's beautifully detailed, and I showed a lot of that in the kit. Anyhow, I got started on it, and over the last month or so, sort of in between Skodas and bloody Skyhawks and all the other things I've been pottering around with, I managed to get this thing together. Here's a few photos of the build. So here's the start of the assembly, and I basically built the suspension and the wheels. That was a lot of fun, and even those DS tracks weren't that bad and went together rather nicely. You can see there's a little 5-cent piece, Australian 5-cent piece. How tiny she is. And she even had photo etch, which was rather amazing, which added just that extra little bit of detail. And I opened up the hatches at the top there because I wanted the MG showing, and altogether I'm really pleased with this kit. Look at the little periscopes up the top there and the smoke launchers. I mean, it's just a lovely little kit. And there she is, my tiny little, well, she looks big in the screen, doesn't she? But she's only tiny. Look, that big. She's a mouthful, that's all. I could, she'd be gone. But it's just a lovely little kit, and there's so much detail. Hopefully nothing falls off, because the wheels are only dry fitted, tracks are only dry fitted. I'm yet to glue all that up because it's going to be pulled apart and painted. And that's the exercise of this video. See, they've got a little bit of photo etch in there. She's got photo etch in the back here too, and I couldn't quite get that back assembly right there. There's supposed to be some little guards in there and protection plates and things, but I might have put that slightly together wrong. But then again, Dragon instructions are a bit vague, as they typically are usually, and it wasn't sort of quite obvious which bit went in first. So I built it as best I could, and then I thought, oh God, how am I going to get these tiny little bits in? So I did some research, and my resource material that I had with photos of the arse end of StuGs showed a lot of them didn't have the sort of protection plates, so I didn't put them in. Bugger it. She's just got mufflers there. That'll be fine. I'll figure that out when I go to my larger scale, 1/35th scale Dragon StuG that I've got in the stash. And maybe it'll become more apparent how that goes together with that one. But that doesn't matter. For the purposes of building this, and it was such a fun little kit to put together, apart from that, trying to figure out that rear end muffler thing, everything else was easy. Everything else fitted together nicely. The detail is just amazing for something so small. I mean, I haven't got all the tools on there yet. That's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to paint the body and paint the tools, and I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to paint it different for me. I'm going to paint it black, like my t-shirt. I'm going to do this method where it's totally black to start with, and then slowly we lighten up with shades of Panzer Grey, modulating up with different shades and different colours on different surfaces. So we build up sort of an almost 3D effect. Now, I'm probably not going to go to the extremes that some people do, because I think it's a bit cartoon-like, but I'd like to explore a little bit of modulation and see how that could make this little StuG come alive. So let's do that. Now here's the tank fully disassembled, all the parts are ready for painting, and for a change I tried this Vallejo acrylic primer and it came up beautifully. So here I have everything painted the black, and I've also added some Panzer Grey already onto the hull bottom, just to see how it would look. And it's probably hard to see in the video, but I did try to sort of spray down and leave some shadowing effects, which are there. They're just very subtle, and they probably won't show up on video camera very well. So you can see the difference in colour from the black to the Panzer Grey. So there already is quite, there's your first modulation. So that's been done. So that's the black I used, which is Vallejo. I didn't have my MIG primer black yet when I started on this. That only arrived this week, but that's okay. That Vallejo sprayed on really nicely, just with a little bit of Windex window cleaner, as a thinner. The first German grey I've used, Dunkelra from MiG, that's the one that's gone on there, and I've put that on the wheels as well, so they're ready to go. The tracks have already been Dunkel Grey as well. It has the barrel just to test it out. Now, I've got to put the top hull parts together, because that's only dry fitted. So I've got to assemble all this. And I didn't cement that onto there because when that goes on to when the upper hull goes in the lower hull, you need to be able to see in there to get this whole mechanism for the barrel in, which is a little bit fiddly. And that's what I'm going to do next. That's a bit annoying. Once that's assembled, and I won't worry about the tracks or the tools or the wheels, so now I'll put them to the side, I'm then going to try and come down in shades from the Ammo MiG Dunkel Grey, and then I'm going to try this life colour, what they call a Panzer Grey, and then they've got another one here which is a lighter version. So this is their modulation. They also have a matte black, but we've already used black. So I'll try their greys and see how they go and see if I can't get some shading effect on my little StuG here. Alright, let's put it together. Here's the start of my modulation, but you can see this is such a small scale and I'm only using the iPad to shoot it. That's as close as I could get. So it really was hardly any point trying to explain the method to get this sort of modulation. But I'll put a link on the bottom here. Carlos Mendes did a fabulous tutorial on how to do the Panzer Grey modulation. So have a look at that. Here's all my parts, and I have finished the modulation on my little StuG. And as I said, wasn't much point doing a video when there's some much better ones out there, and you'll see the link at the bottom of this this page. Now, the track links, despite their tiny size, I'm really happy with how they turned out. I don't know how much you're going to see in video. I'll take photos at the end so you can really see what's going on. But I used my regular method of washing, although this time I did start with a base of black, because that's been the experiment in this kit, was painting everything black and then, you know, basically modulating the colours lighter as we went. So with that base of black, I then put on a little bit of German grey, and then from that I did my usual washing and pigments, and I was pretty happy. The only thing I did a bit different is I put more browns on this time. Usually I just kind of put that red and the orange. Well, I put a bit of brown in there and some Kursk mud as a wash, and then I only used silver as my highlight. That's all I needed, and I got a slightly different effect that I'm really happy with, and I might try that on a larger tank. Now, to give you an idea what I'm struggling with here, because you know I've got wobbly eyes, right? Do you remember this one? Okay, now I'll put it down here right next to that one. Can you see how small a area of plastic we are working on with this StuG, right? So that's the SU-152, which admittedly is quite a big tank, but that's kind of where I did a lot of my weathering videos and did a lot of my effects, because I can really see what I'm doing, you know, there's plenty of canvas there. But this little StuG, I mean, it'll sit here on the back. It is tiny. And this is the trouble, the scale is half, right, from 1/35th to 1/72nd, but that's half the width and half the depth, you know, so you actually only got a quarter of the area. And that's the trouble, and it's only a sort of a little tank anyway. So it's been a challenge to really get things happening at such a small scale. So we'll move this big dinosaur out of the way. Oh, I love that tank. Now, I did my usual leaving the tools off, and that usually works for me, but then I tried to paint them, and as I said, they're so tiny. Look, this thing here is that's about 1/3 of an inch. That one, these things, they're just so little, you know, and quite frankly they would have been just as easy to paint on there. In fact, I had to paint a few things on there because I already moulded in, so I don't know if it's going to show up, but they already had an axe and a little tensioner, little track tensioner, little hooky thing there, and on this side there's a shovel already moulded in, so I was forced to actually paint them in situ. And I tell you what, that was actually easier, at least at this scale, than painting those tiny little parts, because I had to tape them down and then really couldn't do much with them. I really couldn't get a lot of detail in. So yeah, it might have been beneficial to actually put all the tools on at this scale, and then paint them. But anyhow, live and learn. Anyhow, my wheels are all done, my tracks are done, I've got my front sprockety things in, so they're exactly in position I need to put this on, so I've got everything ready to go for that final assembly. And here's where we've got to. I've got everything assembled on her, and I've managed to put a few little chips here and there. I started painting the binoculars at the top here. These little things. Big fat finger, eh? And thought, I wonder if I could just put a few little chips here and there with that black paint. Well, I had to do it almost like dry brushing. I had to get just about all the paint off the brush, and only with the tiniest specks left, trickle it here and dab it there and be really careful. And I managed to get some semblance of chipping at that scale. It's not too bad. It's not too over-exaggerated, I don't think. And I'm very happy with the way the metal parts that the tools that I painted separately turned out, even though some of them probably would have been a lot easier to paint if I'd put them on the body first. I ended up CO gluing all the tools on because I thought I'm not going to stuff around trying to get liquid cement in there and wreck the paint job, whereas tiny little drops of CA, pop the parts in, bingo bongo, they're stuck, hopefully for good. Well, until they fall off. But hopefully you can see the effects of the modulation. They're beginning to become more apparent now, I think. And the chips sort of help bring things out, and the highlights that I painted by brush, by hand, they make the little edges shine. Everything's come together really well. I'm very happy with this build so far. Now, a couple of things I did get wrong is, you see there's this little black thing here. Well, I don't know if it's supposed to be black. That is the barrel cleaner, I think. And for some reason, when I painted it, I left what I thought was the bottom side unpainted, which is the side that would be cemented to the body. Well, that ended up being the side that gets shown. So I ended up with a whole unpainted side there. I thought, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to paint that. But I also, if you have a look right at the back here, it's a fire extinguisher. Well, for some reason that never got cut off the sprue, and I hadn't even painted it or anything, so I had to do a last minute cut off the sprue of that, and then sand her up, pop her in, and then I basically primed both the fire extinguisher and that barrel cleaner in place. And tell you what, they're a lot easier to paint, those little things, when they're actually glued to something. So there's a lesson learned. With this scale tanks, a lot of the tools, it's worth just leaving them in place and then painting them. So there you go. That's what we've got with us so far. Next stage is to get a Panzer Blue filter all over that. Let that dry, get the decals on, then go over with more of a heavier wash, bring out some of the details, and then some grime, finally some mud and some dust, and then she'll pretty well be finished. Well, YouTubers, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news, we got some Panzer Grey on there. Well, Panzer Blue. I put a filter on. And we're fighting with a gardener at the moment who's mowing out there, but I'll just talk a bit louder. So she's got her decals on and she's got that Panzer Blue and she's really starting to come alive. Bad news is I used my odorless thinner, right? Which was handy. I did that last night, so I didn't stinkify the place up. This morning, of course, she wasn't anywhere near dry because that odorless thinner takes like forever to dry. So I put the little Panzer outside in the sun because it's a lovely day and thought that'll get rid of that odorless thinner, and it did. Got rid of the odorless thinner, and the DS tracks, they melted. Bloody Dragon DS. People have warned me about it. So all my sag and everything, as we've seen in the previous photos, I managed to get sag in this, and you know. And my DS tracks just all started bulging out and popping out of the sprockets. Oh, goodness me. But anyhow, I've stuck in some oars, right? She's a boat. And it's going to have to sit for 2 or 3 days, hopefully, until that all settles down and that sag happens. So I'm going to end the video here. There's a little more to do on the little StuG. I want to put some mud and some dirt and dust and just a bit more stuff on there. But we're nearly there. It's looking pretty good. So I'll leave it here and we'll come back next time and it'll be the final reveal, and hopefully the track-link sag is returned and I can get all the last of the sandy and muddy effects on and then show you how she's turned out. Alright, so that's it for now. That's all we can do. Yes. Dear, 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 dear. My modelling is always fun. You never know what's going to happen. Alright, well it's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.